Hey, global change makers, it's Ben. I hope you're having a great day. I'd ask you how you're doing, but I know this is a video and you can't really respond, but I hope you're doing so well. First of all, thank you for taking time out of your day to listen to this message. I feel like it's an important message for all of us. Now, you, as a global change maker, I know that you want to make a difference, that you have great potential. You can and will accomplish great things. So what we're going to talk about today is the first step to unlocking that potential. So let me pull up my screen here. Thanks for your patience throughout all this technology fun stuff. All right, should be going. So first step to unlocking your potential, like I said. Now the answer that I give might surprise you, so stick around. This answer has been something that I have seen. Now I'll tell you who I am in a minute, but let's go through the 5 takeaways from this message so you know what you'll get out of it. 5 takeaways. First of all, you will learn to overcome the obstacles found in your mind. You'll discover what is holding you back. You'll learn to understand and acknowledge your emotions. You'll discover the neuroscience behind replacing old habits with new ones. And you'll gain power over your emotions so you can unlock your potential. Now, who am I? Why should you listen to me? Well, I'm a 30-year-old former HR executive. I was at an international company. I was there for 7 years. I got my master's in HR. I'm a senior certified professional, so I loved what I was doing. But I felt it was important that I share a message with the world. So I left all of that, actually beginning of this year, to become a professional speaker, a life coach, and an author, to share this message that you're going to hear today. I'm also a singer and soccer player, and I do a lot of puzzles when I have some free time. You might notice with this presentation, it's a little different than a normal PowerPoint. I don't know if you're familiar with Menti.com, but this is an interactive presentation. So we're going to try it. What you can do is open your mobile device or your computer, whatever you're watching on, go to that website up top, www.menti.com. Once you're there, type in the code 494086. Once you're there, you will see on your device this presentation, and you can follow right along. It should actually let you do it at your own pace. So when the slides pop up, you can tap the heart if you like the slide. Some of them have a little thumbs up sign. Others, like this slide, are questions that I'd like you to answer. So we're going to practice. When you go to that site, menti.com, and enter the code, you'll find this presentation. And on this slide, I want you to enter where you're from. I'm from Utah, USA. I'd love to see where you are from. All these people around the world that are listening and watching. Now, you won't see the results right now because this is a pre-recorded presentation, but I should get the results and it'll be so awesome. And if you want to see the results or to know what kind of answers were coming in, at the end, I'll give you my email and you can request those from me. Awesome. All right, so we're going to begin with a story to show you what the first step to unlocking your potential is. I'm going to tell you how to train an elephant. When an elephant is young, the trainer ties a metal chain around its leg and ties that chain to a metal post in the ground. The elephant, being young, looks down and says, what's the big deal? Tries to walk away, but finds that it can't. He pulls and pulls, and after a day of pulling, finds that his ankle is raw, and he still hasn't been able to move. The following day, the trainer returns, changes the metal chain out for a rope, and ties that rope to a wooden stake in the ground. The elephant looks down and sees that something's different. So he tries to move, but his ankle is still raw. So now the elephant looks down and says, there's something around my ankle. It hurts when I try to move, therefore I will not move. The next day, the trainer comes back and takes the wooden stake out of the ground, but leaves the rope around the elephant's ankle. The elephant looks down and says to himself, there's something around my ankle. It hurts when I try to move, therefore I will not move. Now realize this elephant has nothing tied to the rope. So the rope is around its ankle, but the rope is tied to nothing. And yet the elephant doesn't move. Okay, fast forward 10 years to when the elephant is an adult. Big, massive animal. Put a rope around its ankle, and what does it do? It looks down and says, there's something around my ankle. It hurt when I tried to move. therefore I will not move. Now we're looking at this massive beast full of incredible potential, strength beyond probably any other animal, at least land mammal. And it doesn't move because of a rope tied to nothing. To us, it is a rope tied to nothing, but to the elephant, it represents years and years of emotional pain. That is what we're going to talk about today. You have the potential of a massive elephant. You can do amazing things. You can do just about anything you put your mind to. But if you have an emotional pain or a rope around your ankle and it's holding you back, then it will inhibit that potential. So we're going to figure out how to do that today. But first of all, I want you to answer this rhetorical question. So this one isn't one that you will answer through the app. You can put a heart on there if you like the question, but no answering to me yet. So I want you to think about this to yourself. What is the emotional pain causing the rope in your life? What is it that's holding you back? And again, this is so important to realize right now, because as you, as a global change maker, try to go forward and make a difference in this world, we need to know how to conquer what will come and try to hold us back. Did you know that the brain experiences emotional pain the same way it does physical pain? The thing is, emotional pain is worse. Let's go through a few examples so you can understand. We went through one with the elephant, right? But here's another thing. Have you ever sprained your ankle? Or at least you know somebody who's sprained their ankle, right? What happens if you don't go to the doctor and get it taken care of properly? You probably limp, don't you? Now, when we limp as a way of coping for that pain that we didn't take care of, what happens to the rest of our body? Well, it starts to hurt too. For example, I hurt my shin the other day playing soccer. It hurts to walk on that right leg, so I'm limping a little bit. And now my left knee hurts. What's the deal, right? And if I keep doing this, my hip will probably start to hurt, and then my back, and then it's my whole body. All because I had an injury or a sprained ankle that I didn't take care of properly. Now let's talk about emotional pain. If we have an emotional pain, let's say with a relationship, we just broke up with somebody, or you tried to get a job and that didn't work out, so you feel rejected with a friendship, any of those type of feelings, what is that pain? And how do you cope with it? Are you all of a sudden good the next day? Probably not. You might turn to TV because you don't want to think about the pain anymore. You might turn to games. You might turn to eating. You might just say, you know what? Life sucks anyway, so I'm not going to think about it. Turn apathetic. Trust me, I know how that is. So an untreated physical cut becomes more painful over time, and we call that infection. An untreated emotional wound becomes more painful over time. We call that depression. Notice how much that can affect what we're trying to do with our potential. So how do we heal from emotional pain, this rope around our ankles, so that we can unlock our potential? First of all, emotions sometimes aren't very well understood. We first have to name those emotions, put some boundaries on them, and then we can start to do something about them. So I like this acronym called BLAST. It's a number of common emotions a lot of us feel: bored, lonely, angry, stressed, and tired. You can think about it now during the virus. Your schedule's changed, hasn't it? Life is probably a bit different than normal. Have you been bored? Your schedule's different, isn't it? Have you been lonely? You've had to be socially distant from people. How about angry? You're angry that things just aren't working out. Now you're stressed because you really want to make a difference, but now it's even harder, or it seems harder. Now you're just tired. You know what? I don't even care anymore. See how those emotions happen to us? If we can name them, then we start to have control over them. But I want you to think one more time. If we're experiencing these emotions, what do we do to cope? One of the big reasons that I left my executive HR position to share this message with the world is because all of us experience emotions, but not all of us know how to deal with those emotions properly. Too often, we cope with emotions in one of these ways. We might binge watch, eat, sleep, exercise, stop feeling, those things I mentioned before. But if we don't get a handle on these feelings and these emotions, they may escalate to more mind-numbing behaviors and addictions like drugs and alcohol, pornography. It even might go to violence and suicide. You see how all of these things will get in the way of unlocking your potential. I want to change the world. I want to start this business. I want to help this person. I want to start this. But if anything on this list exists and isn't taken care of, then wow, it is going to get in the way, isn't it? So let's learn how we can get through this. But before we do, I want you to answer this question. This is one that you can participate through the app. If you remember, go to the website menti.com and use the code 494086. You can type in your response. Once again, we won't see it on this screen because it's pre-recorded. I will see them, and if you want to see the results, email me at the end. How do you cope with your emotional pain? And if you need some time to think about it, pause this video, answer the question, and come back. I'll still be here. All right. Now that you have thought, what is the emotional pain causing the rope in your life? What's holding me back, or what could hold me back? And you've thought, how do I cope? I'm going to share my story with you. I think it helps to see somebody else's example. But before I do, I want you to have two things in mind. First of all, as you hear my story, it's not to compare. It's not to say, oh, his story is no big deal, or man, his is so much worse than mine. But it's to relate. We all have emotions. We can all relate on how we felt one time or another, even though the story might be different. Also, I want you to pay attention to the thoughts and feelings that come to you. Our bodies are amazing. They're designed to heal. Our brain already knows what emotion needs to be felt, what it's trying to tell you, and what needs to be done. But often we just try to ignore it, don't we? We go to our coping mechanisms. So your brain, as you listen to my story, will start to give you little hints and say, hey, yeah, you relate with that. So keep those two things in mind as I tell you my story. My story comes from when I was 9 or 10 years old. I was in elementary school, and I was just finishing gym class. We just played dodgeball, okay? I've been blessed to be good at sports, and I was starting to notice that my friends were noticing that I was good at sports. So I was starting to care what my friends thought about me, right? As a 9 or 10-year-old. At the end of this class, we were leaving, and I was with my group of friends, and they were laughing hysterically about something. Of course, wanting to be involved in the fun, I asked them, hey guys, what's so funny? And they turned to me and said, ha, raise your arms. So I did. And they laughed even harder. Now I looked down and I realized that I had extremely sweaty armpits. Now you might think, yeah, bro, you just finished a dodgeball game. Of course you're gonna be sweaty. What's the big deal? Well, first of all, I was a 9 or 10-year-old boy, not knowing exactly how the body worked. And I must have been sweating a lot more than others, because otherwise, why would my friends laugh like that? And you see how I was affected in that moment. My friends, who I cared what they thought about me, were laughing at me, not with me, at me. They were saying things like, ew, that's gross, that's disgusting. What did I hear? I heard, you are gross, you are disgusting. I started to think that there was something wrong with me and that people did not want to be with me. Okay, so you say, well, good, that's the rope in your life, so why don't you just walk away? It's not tied to anything. Yeah, but it's an emotional pain. And it has definitely affected me throughout my life. If I go to game nights, it turns out that I have something called hyperhidrosis. It's excessive underarm sweat. So it's something I have to live with. If I go to game nights, I don't want people to discover that. I'm here to have fun, not be embarrassed, right? Family activities, trying out for a play, trying to do big things. Sometimes it held me back because I didn't want that part of me that I didn't control, that I wasn't proud of, to be discovered. Then people would say, you are gross, you are disgusting. Nobody wants to be with you. See how those feelings came? And that is real? That emotional pain, similar to that elephant, full of potential, but didn't move because of that. So you think, great, all right, now we know your emotional pain, now what? Well, part of my story was I worked with a therapist to get through this. I was working with him on a number of other things, but then I thought, oh my goodness, I wonder if this is a part of my story. I wonder if it still affects me today. So about 2 years ago, I was working with him and I shared this story with him. Now, first of all, one of my coping mechanisms was to keep people at arm's length. I protected myself by being successful at everything I could do. I was an executive in professional life. I was a leader at church. I was great at sports, good at music, all sorts of things that people would say, Ben is so great, Ben is so good. And I say, yes, thank you. But a close friend of mine said, you keep people at arm's length. I said, boy, is that true? Because I don't want them to get any closer to discover something that I don't control and that I'm not proud of. Because then they won't want to be with me. So I went to my therapist with this defensive mindset in mind. But I told him my story, and as any good therapist would, he said, thank you for telling me. And my brain was like, wait a minute, you're not going to judge me, you're not going to laugh, I'm not going to feel embarrassed, what's the deal? So that was an aha moment. My brain said, oh my goodness, maybe what happened in the past won't have to be repeated. Then my therapist did something very important that we can all do, is we can rewrite our memories and remove that rope off our ankle. What he did with me is said, hey, go back to your 9 or 10-year-old self as your current self, right after this event happened. Take him to a safe place and say, you just experienced something very difficult, and you have every right to feel the way you do. But I want you to know that it is over, that you are loved, and that you're going to do some amazing things in life. Now, when I told my younger self this, I said, baloney. I didn't believe this. I said, why would anybody love me? This is still a part of me. It's been a part of me. I know how I feel. That can't be true. I can't lie to myself. But as my therapist worked through this experience with me, I did it a number of times, and I started to believe, wow, it was a one-time occurrence. It is over. I can be loved. I have done amazing things, and I will continue to do amazing things. My mindset completely shifted. Instead of something that I'm not proud of, this rope that's holding me back, all of a sudden I realized what it was. It was a rope tied to nothing. Sure, it still happened. I'm not discounting that. The feelings were real. But I can put a name on them, like I said, with the emotions, put it in the past and move on. Then my potential is unlocked. See how that works? Let's go into a bit more detail to help you discover how you can do yours. First, let's return to a physical example, because that helps us understand the emotional. You ever had a splinter? A little piece of wood that gets in your hand? Those are annoying as all get out, and boy, do they hurt, right? If we don't do anything about them and we just hope that our body magically gets rid of it, 3 weeks later, it'll fester. It'll be bigger, it'll be more painful, it'll be more embarrassing. We could go back into that. But the thing is, to heal from a splinter, you have to do one thing. You have to take it out, don't you? You can't just leave it there. And how do you take it out? If you're too afraid to do it yourself, like this girl on the left looks like she might be, who do you go to? You go to your parents, don't you? And why do you do that? Because they will remove the sliver or the splinter, clean the wound, and give you a hug and make sure you know that you are okay, that you're not the problem. See how huge that is? We could be embarrassed that we touched the wood that gave us the splinter in the first place. We could be embarrassed and ashamed. We don't want to go to our parents because they told us not to do that. But the fact that they just say, look, it's a splinter, let's get it out, let's get you healed so you can move on with life in a safe environment, that's huge. So big for our confidence and our belief in ourselves. That same principle applies with emotions. How do we get the emotional pain out of our mind? When you begin to understand and acknowledge your emotions, you begin to have power over them. Okay, let's talk about what that means. Putting the name on it, facing it, understanding and acknowledging that emotion begins to give us the power over it. How do you get emotional pain out of your mind? Same way you do with a splinter. You take it out. Now, how do you do that? 2 ways. You talk about it, or you write about it. So we're going to talk about that in terms of an acronym. POWER, PWR, pray, write, reach out. Follow me through with this. Pray is for talking. You just got to get it out. If any of you have experienced a good venting session, this is the same principle. It's bothering you. You're sick of having it in your mind. It's just festering, 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 just like a splinter would. It helps so much to get it out, even if the person says nothing as they listen, right? So with pray, if you're religious or even if you're not, praying helps you talk to a higher power. I believe in God, or if you do believe in a higher power, that's great. Somebody who's a master healer who loves you perfectly and can help you heal. They'll help you understand what you're going through, help you understand what that rope is holding you back. As you do so, it is removed and your body is allowed to heal. If you're not comfortable with praying, then like I said, talking to a trusted person who can help you heal in a safe environment, whether that be a friend, a parent, a coach, a therapist, anything. As a coach myself, I've experienced helping others. It's just the fact that they have a place to talk about their emotions. Because in this world, we're taught that, oh, emotions, we just don't deal with those. That's part of life. You just have to work through them. Or we don't talk about emotions. So when people experience them, they say, well, I just have to deal with it. And then I go to my coping mechanisms, isn't it? That turns into problems. Emotions are going to come, my friends. When you are striving to do great things as a global change maker, what happens when you're rejected? What happens when you're afraid, nervous, anxious? What happens if a little bit of depression comes in? What are you going to do? You're going to go back to that coping mechanism and go back to watching TV instead of fulfilling your potential? I don't think so. I think you're a lot better than that. So these tools of power gives you power over that. So you can say, sure, I'm experiencing these emotions, but that's okay. I'll understand it, acknowledge it, and now I'll have power over it. So talking, that's pray. Second is write. If you're not ready to talk to somebody and have them hear your emotions, that's totally fine. You can start with writing. Boy, is that powerful. Same principle comes with talking. As you write it out, it gets it out of your mind, just like that splinter coming out. And there's something powerful about you seeing and clarifying what you're thinking about. Just helps make things make a lot more sense. And finally, R for reach out. This is so important, not only for healing from emotional pain, but also for creating whatever business or having whatever potential you want to make. Reaching out to somebody, because guess what? As you may have felt from my story, maybe we don't go through the same things, but hey, we've felt the same sometimes, haven't we? And we start out thinking, I'm so alone in this. There must be something wrong with me. I can't tell a soul. But as you hear the stories of others, you think, and they think, oh my goodness, we're in this together, aren't we? Oh, isn't that cool? Oh my, I've been sad before. I've been angry. I've been lonely, stressed, tired. Now together, it's more of a human connection. We build those connections. They're so strong. We come out of the pain and we start building something amazing. Our potential grows together exponentially. So that reach out is so important. Finally, I want to talk to you a little bit about the neuroscience of changing those habits. As we've talked about through today, when the brain experiences pain, whether it's physical or emotional, it doesn't like it, of course. Nobody likes pain. So the brain says, I want to either numb the pain or relieve the pain. So in the old days, you would look to that unhealthy coping mechanism, whatever it was that you wrote down, watching TV, eating, anything that you wrote down. If you just simply say, okay, Ben's telling me that I shouldn't do that anymore, cool. If you just say, I'm not going to do that, then it leaves a hole in this process in your brain. So your brain says, I feel this pain. I want to numb it or relieve it. I used to go to this, but now there's a hole. So I need to fill the hole. So what am I going to do? I'm going to try to fill it with what I used to do. And that's where the confusion comes in. What we need to do is replace that coping mechanism with a healthy coping mechanism. That's where the power comes in. Pray about it, talk about it, write about it, reach out. These things are huge. When you do these things, your potential as a massive elephant full of amazing strength, capabilities, and potential will be able to do amazing things. Just like this elephant pulling a fire truck. Isn't that incredible? Such a massive vehicle. You can be an instrument of change. You can achieve your goals. You can be a global change maker. I believe in you. Thanks for listening, guys and girls. If you would like to know more about these things that I teach, or if you liked what I had taught, and if you want a copy of some of the answers that came through, here's some information on how to get a hold of me. I have my website. There's my email right there. It goes directly to me. If you'd like to connect with me on social media, you got Facebook, Instagram, YouTube under Ben Eden Speaks. And what I'd love for you to do is connect with my private Facebook group called Champions of Self. We go through these ideas. We want to achieve our dreams. How do we unlock our potential? What if there's something holding me back? How do I get through that? We go through all those aspects, believing in each other, because I know that we can all do great things. So once again, thank you for listening, and go be a great global change maker. Till next time.